Good evening, my friends. I want to begin with a question, not a rhetorical one, a real one that I want you to actually sit with for a moment before I say another word. When do you think you are? You might answer, Tuesday evening, 7:30, the 25th of March. But I want you to look more carefully than that. Where is Tuesday? Where is 7:30? Can you point to them? Can you find them, touch them, locate them in space? Can you find the past, not your memory of it, but the actual past itself anywhere outside of your consciousness right now? Can you find the future, not your anticipation of it, but the actual future anywhere at all? No, because they don't exist. Not as locations, not as fixed, external, independently existing territories of reality. They exist only as mental events, as imagination of what was and imagination of what will be occurring in the one place where everything always and only occurs. This moment, the eternal now. And tonight I want to show you that this is not philosophy. It is not mysticism. It is the most practical, most immediately useful, most life transforming understanding of reality available to a human being. Because if all time exists in the now, if past and future are not separate locations but different directions of attention within a single, timeless, simultaneously existing field, then your desire is not waiting for you in the future. It already exists, right now. And the only question is whether you know how to access it. Let me tell you about a man who came to me after a lecture, visibly agitated, barely containing his frustration. He had been practicing these teachings for 3 years. 3 years of faithful visualization, of feeling the wish fulfilled, of dedicated, sincere, genuinely committed practice. And nothing had changed. Not meaningfully, not in the ways that mattered. If time is an illusion, he said, why is it taking so long? I looked at him and I saw immediately the mistake. Not a mistake in his technique, a mistake in his understanding of what he was actually trying to do. He believed he was trying to bring something from the future into the present. He was operating from the assumption that his desire existed somewhere ahead of him in linear time, and that his practice was a vehicle for pulling it closer, for shortening the distance between here and there. And from that assumption, 3 years felt like an unbearably long wait, because it was. He was waiting. He was reaching forward through time for something he believed was not yet here. I said to him, my friend, you are not trying to bring something from the future. You are trying to recognize what already exists in the eternal now. Your desire isn't waiting to happen someday. It has already happened. It exists right now in the dimension of consciousness that transcends time. Your job is not to make it happen. It is to become aware of what has always already been. He stared at me. Tonight, I said, don't visualize your desire as something that might happen in the future. Remember it as something that has already happened, not as hope as memory, not as possibility as fact. But how can I remember something that hasn't happened? Because in the dimension where all creation takes place in consciousness, in the eternal now, it has already happened. He went home. He practiced exactly this, not visualization forward, but memory backward, the memory of a future that, in consciousness, had always already been real. 6 weeks later, the 3 year desire manifested. And when he called to tell me, he said something that has stayed with me. He said it didn't feel like something new arriving. It felt like something I had always known would happen, like a memory becoming visible. Exactly. Because in the timeless realm of consciousness, it had always already occurred. Let me explain the nature of time as precisely as I can, because precision here is everything. Most people experience time as a river, a flow from past through present to future, carrying them along whether they like it or not. Fixed, irreversible, linear. The past is gone and cannot be changed. The future hasn't arrived and cannot be accessed. Only the present moment is real, and it is constantly slipping away into the past before you can hold it. This experience is real. I am not dismissing it. You do age, clocks do tick, sequences of events do occur in what appears to be order. But the experience of linear time is not the nature of time. Think of a motion picture film. The film contains all its frames simultaneously. Frame 1 and frame 500 and frame 2000 exist at the same time, on the same reel, all equally present and equally real. The story they tell, beginning, middle, end, exists complete, all at once, in a single physical object. When you watch the film, you experience it sequentially. Frame follows frame. Characters seem to move through time. Events seem to unfold from cause to effect. The narrative seems to happen. But the narrative was always already complete. Every frame already existed before you sat down to watch. The movie is over before it begins. Your life is the same. Every moment of your past and every moment of your future exists simultaneously in the infinite field of consciousness, the way all frames of the film exist simultaneously on the reel. What you experience as the present moment is simply where your attention is currently focused. It is the frame you are currently illuminating with the flashlight beam of your awareness. But the other frames, including the frames containing your fulfilled desire, are not waiting to be created. They exist now. They have always existed. Your desire is not in the future. It is in a dimension of the present that you have not yet accessed. And accessing it is not a matter of waiting for time to pass. It is a matter of shifting where you place your attention. Let me speak about a woman who lived with an alcoholic husband for 15 years. She came to me not asking whether she could change her circumstances. She was far past hoping for that. She was asking whether she could survive them, whether there was any path forward that didn't require abandoning the man she had loved or destroying herself staying. I told her something that, on the surface, must have sounded nearly cruel in its simplicity. Your question is about what can happen in linear time. But the real question is, can you move your attention to the version of your husband that already exists in the eternal now? The version who is sober, present, loving, devoted. She looked at me as though I had missed the entire point of what she'd said. I continued, right now, in this eternal moment, there exists a version of your husband who has never had a drinking problem. There exists a marriage that is harmonious, warm, genuinely loving. These are not future possibilities. They are present realities existing in dimensions of consciousness that transcend linear time. But those things never happened, she said. They happened in the eternal now. They exist in the dimension of consciousness where all possibilities are simultaneously real. By remembering them, by accessing them as memory, rather than reaching for them as hope, you shift your point of attention to the dimension where they are already true. She was skeptical. She was desperate. She tried. Every night she spent time in the consciousness of her harmonious marriage, not imagining it forward into a hoped-for future, remembering it as one remembers a fact. The conversations they had had, the love that was simply the texture of their life together, the ease of being with someone who was fully present to her. None of this had happened in linear time. All of it existed in the eternal now. And something began to shift. Not in her husband, not yet, but in her, in how she related to him, in the state she brought into every interaction. She stopped reacting to the drinking man. She began responding to the sober one, the one she knew in consciousness to be real. She spoke to his highest self. She treated him with the warmth and respect of someone who genuinely sees the person behind the pattern. He noticed. Within 3 months, he began drinking less. Within 6 months, he had stopped entirely. He began to be, in linear time, the man she had been remembering in the eternal now. Had she changed the past? Had she created the future? No. She had accessed a version of reality that already existed and claimed it as her experience by living from it, rather than waiting for it. Now I want to tell you about a man who used this understanding to heal something that many would say is impossible to heal. He was elderly. He had been estranged from his father for the last 20 years of the father's life. His father died before they reconciled. And this man had spent years under the weight of that unresolved grief, the specific, relentless grief of someone who knows the conversation will never now happen, the apology will never be given, the love will never be clearly spoken between them. It's too late, he told me. The past cannot be changed. I said, the past exists right now as vividly as the present. In the eternal dimension of consciousness, your father is still alive. Your relationship with him is still fluid. Reconciliation is still possible not as a future event, but as a present reality you can access by shifting your attention. He went into the memory, not the memory that had happened in linear time, but the memory of the meeting that existed in eternal time, the conversation where he said what needed to be said with love rather than anger, where his father heard him and responded with the warmth that had always been underneath the difficulty, where they held each other as men who had wasted time and now, gratefully, were not going to waste another moment. He made these memories vivid. He inhabited them completely. He returned to them every night. And something happened that he had not anticipated. The living memories of actual events began to shift. Moments he had remembered as evidence of his father's indifference began to reveal other things, layers of care that had been invisible to him from his former state of consciousness. He began to see his father's life differently, to understand what had been underneath the surface all along. And then, 6 months later, going through old family documents, he found letters. Letters his father had written but never sent. Letters that said, in the father's own words, almost exactly what the son had imagined him saying in their revised conversations. The love had been there. The regret had been there. It had always been there. He had not invented it in imagination. He had found it by shifting his dimensional position, moving to a state of consciousness from which the fuller truth was visible. This is how consciousness transcends time, not by changing what happened, by revealing what was always true from a higher perspective. Let me give you the practical teaching, because I know that some of you are moved by these stories and are asking, how? How do I actually do this? There are 3 practices, 3 ways of relating to time that together constitute the art of living from eternity. The first is eternal thinking. Most people think in the language of linear time. I hope this will happen. I'm afraid this might occur. I wish the past had been different. Every verb in a future or past tense is a declaration that what you desire is not here, not now, not real in the present moment. Eternal thinking speaks differently. This already exists. This is already accomplished. This is already true in the dimension where all creation originates. Not as affirmation, as recognition. You are not asserting something you hope to be true. You are recognizing what you understand to already be true in the timeless field of consciousness. This shift in how you frame your desire from future hope to present recognition changes the state you create from. And the state you create from is everything. The second is temporal flexibility. Instead of being fixed in one timeline, the timeline your current circumstances seem to confirm, you develop the ability to move your attention fluidly through different moments of possibility. When your body appears sick, you access the moment of your health, not as visualization of something hoped for, as the memory of something eternally real. When your bank account appears empty, you access the moment of your financial ease, not as fantasy, as recognition of a dimension where this is simply true. When your relationship appears strained, you access the moment of its harmony, not as wishful thinking, as the deliberate choice to attend to the version of reality that already exists in the eternal now. You become, through practice, someone who is not confined to one reading of reality, who can move their attention the way a skilled musician moves through a piece, inhabiting each moment fully and choosing where to dwell. The third is eternal memory. This is the most powerful and the most unusual. You begin to remember not just what happened in linear time, but what exists in eternal time. The memory of your fulfilled desire, the memory of the reconciled relationship, the memory of the healthy body, the memory of the abundant life. These memories are as real as any other memories because all memories are consciousness events occurring in the present moment. The pastness of a memory is itself a construction of the linear mind. In the eternal now, the memory you create of your fulfilled desire and the memory you have of your childhood breakfast are equally, ontologically, present events in consciousness. And the subconscious, which does not experience linear time, which does not mark memories with timestamps and evaluate their reality based on when they occurred, receives both with equal creative force. When you consistently remember your desire as already accomplished, your subconscious accepts this as fact. And from that fact, it organizes your entire experiential world. Let me address the practical objection that I know is forming. If I spend my time in eternal memories of a fulfilled desire, am I not ignoring my actual responsibilities? Am I not escaping from reality? No. And the distinction matters. Living from eternity does not mean withdrawing from linear time. You still keep your appointments, you still pay your bills, you still engage fully with the sequential world and the people in it. But you engage from a different center. Instead of engaging from the anxiety of temporal limitation, always worried about what's coming, always burdened by what's behind you, engage from the settled confidence of someone who understands that the dimension where solutions exist is always available, that the version of reality where your desire is fulfilled is always present, that the eternal now contains not just your current struggle, but also its perfect resolution. From that center, you make better decisions. You see more clearly. You notice opportunities that were invisible from the state of anxiety. You bring a quality of presence to every interaction that could not exist while you were consumed by temporal worry. You become more effective in linear time by ceasing to be imprisoned by it. This is not escape. This is the proper use of consciousness, the use of a being who understands their nature and operates from it, rather than spending their entire existence hypnotized by the projector. The young man who wanted to become a doctor, every school had rejected him. His grades were imperfect. His scores were marginal. The linear timeline read clearly. Medical school was not in his future. I told him to think eternally rather than temporally. In the eternal now, there exists a moment where you receive your acceptance letter, a moment where you take your oath, a moment where you heal your first patient. These moments are as real right now as any moment you have ever experienced. He learned to live from those moments, not to visualize them as future events and wait for them with hope, to inhabit them as present realities, to think as the doctor, to carry himself as the doctor, to move through his days from the consciousness of someone who already was what he had always been in the eternal dimension. Not pretending, not performing, expressing an eternal truth. The external world, which is always the last to reflect what consciousness has already established, eventually caught up. He became a doctor. Not because he forced a path through linear time, because he stopped waiting for time to give him what he already was in eternity and simply began to be it. So I want to leave you tonight with this. Your desire is not in the future. It exists now in the dimension of consciousness that transcends the linear sequence your senses report to you. It has always existed. The moment you first felt the desire, it was simultaneously fulfilled in the eternal now, because desire and its fulfillment are not separated by time. They are separated only by attention. You have been reaching forward through time for something that was never ahead of you. It is beside you, within you, available in this very moment, not through effort, not through waiting, not through the slow, anxious accumulation of days, through the shift of attention, through the willingness to stop experiencing your desire as something coming and begin remembering it as something that, in the only reality that creates, has always already been. Select the moment you wish to inhabit. Remember what is eternally true. Live from the version of reality where your desire is simply, of course, obviously, unremarkably already done. And watch as linear time, which has always been a servant rather than a master, arranges itself to reflect the truth you have already claimed. You are not moving through time. You are consciousness itself, timeless, eternal, ever present, temporarily directing its attention through a sequence of moments in order to experience what it has always and already been. Aim your attention well. Choose which moments to illuminate. And remember, the eternal now contains everything you have ever desired. It has been waiting not in the future, here, always here, right now. Good evening. This is Neville Lectures. I'll see you again in the next video.